pad, and everybody write their name on a sticky note. And for this exercise, it will be helpful if you pretend that you're about 6 or 7 years old. You're about, 3.5 to 4 feet tall. And we're going to think, how big is a real bear? And so, does anybody have an idea how big a real bear is? Okay. Anybody else? How big is a real bear?
2 or 3 of me.
Does it mean standing up on 2 legs or on 4?
You get to decide which way are you thinking about, a bear on its 4 feet or a bear on its 2 feet?
Way bigger than my dad.
All right, so what you get to do right now, if you're thinking of a bear standing on its 4 feet, I want you to go over and put the top of your sticker on this bit of wall right here where you think the top of its shoulders would be. And if you're thinking of a bear standing up on 2 feet, I want you to come right over here and put where you think the top of its head is going to be. So go ahead and stand up and go to one place or the other. Put your sticker on the wall.
Usha, help. I need it.
There we go.
Yeah.
Here?
Yeah, that's fine.
Peter, I can't reach. We have chairs. Well, we have tall people.
You can hand it to Sean and let him
Do you
reach.
see how tall I put mine?
Okay, Sean, I want mine like this way.
I want my third color.
Go down below. Bottom wall down there.
And as soon as you've done that, if you come back to your seat. All right. Boy, what cooperative students. Everybody got it up there and nobody got hurt. And everybody's back in their seat quietly waiting to see what's next. Good work. Last point. All right. So I'm going to read you a story about Alaska's 3 bears, because as it turns out, not all bears are the same size. For one thing, of course, some are little bears, some are baby bears, and some are grown-up bears. But really, in my question, I didn't say this, but I was thinking of a grown-up bear, and I think most of you were too. What you'll learn in this book that I'm going to pretend to read is that there are 3 kinds of bears that live in North America. The black bear, the brown bear or grizzly bear, and the polar bear. We're going to count off coming across the rows, and then I'm going to tell you what to do next. Lori, would you start with 1?
1.
And remember your number.
2.
Use your fingers if you need to.
3, 1.
2.
3.
1.
2. 3. 1. 2.
Bob is 3. All right. Now, everybody who didn't said number 1, you're going to listen in this book for how big a black bear is. If you're a number 2, you're going to listen and try to remember the brown bear or grizzly bear. 2 names for the same kind of bear. If you're number 3, polar bear. Okay? So I'm reading the book. And in the course of the book, we're going to find out that the black bear standing is approximately 5.5 feet tall. The brown bear is approximately 7 feet tall. And the polar bear is approximately 9 feet tall. That's an average height. There's certainly taller ones and there's certainly shorter ones. Everybody stand up now for a moment and look around the room. We're all 6 or 7 years old. Are we all exactly the same height?
No.
No. Same thing with bears. Even if we were all black bears, they would be just like this. Some would be shorter, some would be taller, some would be right in the middle. Go ahead and sit down. All right. Now, I'm going to have, oops, I didn't really quite bring enough equipment. All the people who are number 1s, would you please come stand right up here? And I'm going to give you this ruler, and I'm going to have you find the place on the wall that's 5.5 feet from the floor. You get to work as a team, and let's see. Good, thank you. When you find where that place is, if you'll put this piece of tape on the wall just at that point. So 5.5 feet up. All the number 2s.
Maybe that's enough.
Okay, great, okay. You can all come sit down, you don't have to really do it.
We don't have to really do it. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Sean.
What I really meant was have that group demonstrate. We don't all have to do it.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Sorry, you guys go ahead and do it. Or would you rather have a yardstick? You get a choice of tools, except for the yardstick. It's hiding back there, would you rather? If it's helpful, if it's helpful, there's
That's a
a
very good way.
yardstick that measures 3 feet at one time. Woo-hoo! All right. Thank you very much. So in Education for Life terms, in flow learning terms, what we would have just done if we'd really completed that part of the activity is we would have done Awaken Enthusiasm. That was the part where you got your sticker, you got to get up and stick it to the wall, think about how big a real bear is. And then Focus Attention part would be the part where I was reading you the book and you had to listen. It's a book I was going to read you, Alaska's Three Bears, is a little bit of a longish story, and the information on the size of the bears is near the beginning, so you'd need to remember all the way through. And at the end I would ask people to let me know, and we would check it for accuracy. But that would be the Focus Attention part. And then the direct experience is actually measuring and seeing how tall the bears really are. And then for sharing inspiration, what we would do is create a graph using either, in the curriculum book it has these little icons. You could either do it compared to the average size 7-year-old, which is 4 feet. An icon would represent 4 feet, so you'd have a black bear, a brown bear, a polar bear on your graph, or you could use the little feet symbols to show.
So Karen, can you speak to these 6 areas? Which is this?
This would fall under several. A part of it would be our Earth, our universe, because it's actual information about bears, which are part of the natural world. Obviously, cooperation is involved, working together as a team. Communication, when you're talking with each other and so forth. So those would be the main areas that it would fall under in this particular lesson. Okay?
I wanted her to show that just to show how experiential it could be. Not that every lesson you have will be that experiential, right? Because it's a lot of moving around in the classroom, and you know that can take a lot of time. So one of the things I want to come back to is the whole idea of the thematic learning and the fact that modern education is very reductionist. That is, all the skills that that children are expected to know, it's just been reduced into little discrete, specific skills, and they're tested every 2 years to see if they have this skill and this math skill and that math skill and this library skill, and it's deadly boring when it's done like that. Whereas if you teach holistically, the kids do get these skills. And how do we know that? Because our kids do test. At least in our school, we know two grade levels higher than average on standardized tests by the time they get to 4th or 5th grade. Now, we don't test earlier, and I know that if we did test earlier, I don't believe it would be that high because the individual rates of development vary so much, and we don't push kids hard like they do in kindergarten and 1st grade in some schools. Because we know that if we're patient and positive and surround them with a literature-rich and subject-rich classroom, all the kids do get it. They do, unless there's a specific maybe learning disability or problem. I don't want to say there's never a child who has difficulty academically later on, sometimes. But just this holistic approach really does work. Before we leave that topic, I just wanted to say one more thing, which is a lot of times our teaching tends to be or the way we were taught maybe, tended to be the teacher tells us something, we memorize it, and then they ask, what did you learn, and we tell back. And I know I fall into that a lot as a teacher. One reason is some kids love it, particularly the intellectual kids and the will kids. They love to be challenged that way. Feeling kids, not so much. Physical kids, not a bit. So we have to be careful that we are teaching upper level skills like, problem solving, like how do you use this information. And that's, again, brings us back to the thematic approach. Really helps do that, because at the end of almost every unit, the kids produce something, whether it's a report or a poster or a talk or a project that they share with parents. They actually use what they've learned and produce something. Do you have something to add? You look so intelligent back there. So I just wanted to mention, because some people who take the Education for Life teacher training haven't had teacher training elsewhere. And I wouldn't want you not to have at least heard of this, because you need to be sure you structure your lessons so that the kids have the opportunity for the higher level skills, which are the most interesting. So it's called Bloom's Taxonomy, and taxonomy means it's a hierarchy of skills, and the most basic one is, of course, recall or remembering, and that's what we tend to, when was the Declaration of Independence signed, class? And you repeat to me the date, okay? Or if I were asking you something that was related to what you've been studying, I might ask, name the 4 steps of flow learning. Who can do that? Karen, I know you can. Thank you for your willingness. Can anybody else name the steps of flow learning?
Awaken enthusiasm, focus attention, direct experience, and reflection.
Share inspiration. Okay, she did that. Does that show she can name the 4? Does it mean that she can teach a lesson using the 4? Mm-hmm. We don't know. So the next level is evaluation. So here's a question that I might ask about EFL that would be evaluative. Do you or disagree with the curriculum areas Karen has assigned to Lesson 3 in the BEAR curriculum? Why or why not? So evaluate this information, showing you understand it. The next is analyze. And I had a handout, which I cannot find, but I'll email it to you. And the analyze question was, arrange topics on the handout into 3 groups according to the stage of maturity in which they belong. So what I did was I listed subjects like walking a balance beam, studying pollution, and studying bears. And I said, okay, which stage of development would each one best go in? Physical years, feeling years, or will years? And I bet you all could answer that, right? You think about physical years, which one of those lessons would be appropriate? Right, balance beam. Feeling years, bears, and of course the will years, they want to change the world. And this is wonderful. So let's study pollution then when we can do something about it and use our wills. And let's don't give that to the feeling. I just don't like all this emphasis on pollution and extinct species for the feeling years, because they don't need to hurt. They already are so open, and there's so much hurt in the world that they're exposed to. They need to be fed with inspiration. And it'll be pretty quickly, they'll be 12 years old, and they won't be open to that anymore. And they want to do something. And that's the time for them to learn those topics. Apply. Application is the next highest level skill. Identify which of the areas these subjects would fall under. Which of these 6 areas? Rocks and gems. Which area, class? How about community helpers, firefighters, police, teachers? A preschool topic. Cooperation. It's about community, very much so. Or it could be understanding people as well. Handwriting. Oh gosh. It could be either one, couldn't it? It could be either one. If you're teaching it to kindergarten and they're struggling to hold a pencil and make the letter, it's more, right, personal development. In 5th grade, when they're dotting their I's with hearts, it might be more self-expression. And certainly as writing would be self-expression, their own writing. The highest level, next is, did I say let's see, I think I got mixed up on the level there because I have one that goes down and one that goes up. So I apologize about that. Well, of course, the most advanced skill is to create something on your own. So then the best way, class, that I can find out if you understand the curriculum and how to do a lesson plan would be, say, create a lesson plan and teach it, and then write or tell me why it worked or why it didn't work, what happened. Do you see how much more? That's what real learning is about, not about name the 4 steps, right? It's about actually doing. And so I want to be sure that everybody is just acquainted with that. So I do have a handout for that. This afternoon, we're going to actually experience 4 more. We're going to do the cooperation lesson plan, which is fun. It's just throwing a ball around. Helen's going to show us what she does to recognize birthdays in pre-KK, which is really fun. And we'll have a 15-minute introduction to VMLA handwriting, which I know some of you are excited about. So, look at that. 1 minute to 12. Questions or comments?
Short questions or comments.
Would you pass these out? Thank you. Would you pass these out? Thank you. Come on, somebody has a question. No?
I remember the word synthesis at the end of Bloom's. Is that what you meant by creative?
You know,
They've updated
they've updated it and changed the words,
So
Lori.
it's it means the same thing, yes?
Creation and synthesis?
You're just using the information you learned
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
and doing something with it yourself. I
Exactly.
like that creation. I just haven't been
A
updated.
few years ago, they renamed everything and tweaked them a little
Are
bit.
there
6.
Oh, here it is. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
There's 2 different though. Which one is the order that they are supposed to go in?
Remembering's the most basic.
Remember, understand, and apply.
Create is the most advanced. This is a bad teacher. I gave them to you in 2 different orders. Well, I did it on purpose to test your understanding, to see if you noticed. Yes, it is. I had it in a pyramid shape, but that was the old words, and Karen, of course, wanted it to be up to date because she's a detail person.
Because she typed this all out a couple years ago.
Let me end today with this quotation, and I think you'll probably agree with it for yourself. Everyone who remembers his own educational experience remembers teachers, not methods and techniques. So when all is said and done, I'm giving you all this information, so much to think about and learn. But you know what really matters when you get in that classroom is your enthusiasm and love for the subject and your love and patience for the children. And if you have those things, they'll learn. Doesn't have to be perfect. Don't have to have these. Just know that these lesson plans, they didn't just come like that. She's done the BEAR curriculum for several years, right? So don't be too hard on yourselves if this seems like, oh my gosh. No, you don't have to do a lesson plan like this for every lesson you teach all day. You'd be working around the clock, wouldn't you? And already first-year teachers work till midnight every night.
Vimala Rogers has written 3 main books. This is one of them, Your Handwriting Can Change Your Life, and I wanted to tell you something she had to say in here. Although the hand, or the teeth, or the toes, depending, holds the pen, it's the brain that causes it to move as it does. By changing writing patterns, we simultaneously reconfigure the neural pathways in the brain that record our self-image. In each stroke of the Vimala alphabet supports the child of God who lives within us all. The child who has a hearty sense of self-esteem, gutsy self-confidence, vigorous curiosity, a positive outlook, intrepid creativity, the wisdom of innocence, rampant tolerance, and clear communication skills. That's why we like to use the Vimala alphabet. A friend of mine, who's a student of Vimala's as well, has written this book. She was a Waldorf mom and helped in many ways with Waldorf education, and she wrote a book geared toward that audience called Soul Development Through Handwriting, the Waldorf Approach to the Vimala Alphabet. And this is a lovely resource for teachers. It explains how this all works. It also has a series in the back, workbook type pages that you're welcome to copy. But also a very useful thing, especially if you're not totally familiar with yourself with using this particular system of writing but would like to. It has a whole section on less desirable forms and how to correct them. So it's very, very valuable. And one of the things she says in here, in her book, when we teach children the Vimala alphabet, we help them preserve their connection to their innate spiritual wisdom and express their noblest human traits. It helps remove hindrances to the full expression of one's unique self. So I got interested in this system of writing, and when the first year that I started using it with the kids, it was an experiment. I had experimented with it myself, and so had Usha, and we thought it was worth giving a shot using it with the students. And as you might imagine, there was a certain amount of resistance, because here's a system of writing. I'm teaching it to first grade, second grade, a kind of cursive writing. And not all kids have real great fine motor skills during those years. I had one student in particular who had very poor fine motor control. And his mom said to me toward the end of the year, this is someone who has a younger child who's going to be coming up into my class, are you going to be using this alphabet forever? Not that I would keep my child out of your school because of it, but just wondering. And I said, basically, I don't know, this is an experiment, we're trying this. And she was saying, well, my child, his handwriting is barely readable, and it probably wouldn't be that great anyway, but it's especially bad with this system. And I just said, well, I don't know yet, we'll see. And we worked, and the next year, this child was in my class again, and we kept working and using it. And by the end of that year, his handwriting had vastly improved. He was proud of his efforts, and she said, I should have just trusted the process. The actual letter forms can be very, very useful with different children to help them with particular qualities. And I'm going to just tell you two quick stories of how I've seen that play out with kids. One particular student did not like to do handwriting. Well, that's going to come up with every subject. It's like, what if I don't want to? And my usual response is, that's fine, you don't have to want to. You just need to do it. And they oftentimes will totally accept that. It's like, oh, okay. But he really did not like handwriting, and he'd sit there and he'd take forever to do it, and it just didn't want to happen. So I started each day, the first thing he'd have on his handwriting paper is this ligature, the GH. And the quality that's associated with this combination is non-resistance. So I thought, what the heck, can't probably get any worse, so we'll try it. So on his paper each day, I'd have him do a line of GH before he did whatever the letter of the day was. And the very first day, same thing, it's just like, so, I'm using the principles of progressive development. I offered him a reward if he would get it done without complaining, and he did it. And the second day, sort of the same thing happened. By the third day, he came in, he took his paper, he sat down, and he started writing. And from that point on, He totally quit complaining about doing handwriting. He'd come, he'd sit down with his paper, do his line of GHs, and then just go on, as though it weren't a big deal at all. And I just went, whoa, you know. And I've used this one myself many, many times. You know, you wake up in the morning and you're going, I'm not getting out of this bed. And I just, you know, it's like start writing GH on the sheet, and pretty soon you've popped up and are going on. Another one, and I'm going to have you do this with me if you will. Many of you have learned cursive writing at some time in your life, probably. And if you were like me, you were taught to do S's like this was the capital S, this was the lowercase s. So then I'd like you to do approximately an equal amount of them doing this. Where everything's curved and you end up going to the right. Alternating upper and lowercase if you remember to. And then if anybody has anything that they notice about the way it looks, the way it feels, your experience of it, if you would be willing to share. Kathleen?
The Vomala way of doing it is much calmer. And I don't know if part of it is for me as a child, when I see that kind of S and I do that kind of S, I have experience to draw on of having it drilled into my head over and over and over again. And so just that, like, I don't know, it's
The association partly, perhaps, yeah?
it's just calmer.
Uh-huh. Great, thank you. Sean?
I've actually been practicing the Vimala handwriting for a couple months and working with S because it's the first letter of my name. And I haven't written an S the way I used to in so long, and just doing this line felt like this, just doing the Vimala has been like I've been wearing tie pants and doing like Tai Chi or something outside, you know? And all of a sudden writing these old S's is like getting into a business suit and putting on dress shoes.
Yes. All right. And with a lot of these things, the way to get the best experience of what it is just try it. Try it both ways and just see. Does it make any difference for you? Would it make any difference for your students? Is it worthwhile thing to pursue? The other S story, which we heard a little bit about before, the letter S, the quality that it's related to is calmness. So it's declaration of intent, or some people would say affirmation that could go with it if you wanted it to. I can be calm when I need to. But it's also about balance, just, you know, not being too much one way or too much the other way. It's great for us as adults when we try to whack our mic. No, when we, you know, you get too many things going on in life and you become real frenetic, and just writing lines of S. This is a great thing to do if you're in traffic and you're starting to experience a bit of road rage or whatever, people are cutting you off. When you're stopped at a red light, I don't recommend you doing it when you're actually driving in traffic, but when you're just on your knee or on the steering wheel or whatever, just some lines of S, and it's the same effect basically for me as like just remembering to breathe. So it's another tool in our tool belt for self-control and calmness. And so one of the things we offer to kids when they are in the calming corner, if they're needing to get recentered, is to grab a clipboard with a piece of paper if they want and write some lines of S, or like that one student just wrote it in the palm of his hands and thought of silence or stillness. To do that, it can make a remarkable difference. It's just so interesting to me how that can happen.
That the child gets to choose if he wants to have a present or not. Now, this paper, as you can see, has been used many times. and they like it, so there were many kindergartens in here. So we have a circle and we celebrate Sean's birthday. And John, let's see, Sean brought a present for us. So we wonder what it's in here. Oh, like that. So the kids all look really interesting when I'm doing the kids. Although I have seen it, they love it.
By the way, this comes from I Love You Rituals, I think, by Becky Bailey.
I love you rituals.
So here, wow, look at Sean. He has a birthday and he brought us a present. Gosh, I wonder what's in here. Wow, it's nice and warm, it wiggles, it moves. Gosh, what in the world did he bring us? Well, let's see what's in here. I'm gonna open and everybody looks really interesting. Oh my baby. So we open it carefully. Let's in here and
Louder.
oh my gosh, he brought us a fan. Oh, and it's nice and cold. Gosh, let's see who else is bringing. You brought the friend. Oh my God. His point finger. I can't believe he brought 2 surprises. And look, there's the middle finger. That is the longest finger I've ever seen. And look how nice they all are, all being together like that. And here's the ring finger. This is a really fun thing. You get to wear a ring on it. And gosh, look, he brought the pinky. Wow, guys, look at he brought the whole hand. Thank you so much, Sean, for bringing us your hand today. So after they eat and heard a story, it's a good time to do it. So I would tell them that we are going to be like the Australian Aborigines that go out and about, and they are out there where it's cold, and they're making a circle just like that, like the sun. We have a little circle in the middle, and then we like the sun, we are coming out. And what I'm gonna give to you, I'm gonna be putting rocks on you, and the trick is, you guys, you cannot move, because what's gonna happen if you move? Rocks fall off. The first rock that I'm going to give you is the one on the forehead. And that means you have to really hold still that forehead. Otherwise the rock will fall off. So let's see how still we can be. Now if it does fall off, do not worry about that. You can put it back on.
I wanted to share with you just a little bit about the writing activity. I asked Helen to bring this in. Her daughter was formerly in our school, and this is her journal from 4th grade, I think it is. And I just went through and picked out a few of the topics the teacher gave her to write on, gave the class to write on. And one of them is, what are my hopes for this year? How can I show respect for the earth and all creatures? What are my dreams for myself? What uplifts or inspires me? And then the teacher put at the bottom, these are good, but I bet there are lots of things that make you feel good. And the next day, who is a person that makes me feel good, inspired, and relaxed? And the teacher wrote, this is good, but you didn't put as much energy into this as others. And so the next page she wrote, okay, I like having Tweety in the classroom. Tweety was the bird we had at the time. And it is fun to learn about Australia. And I like playing 500 at recess. And kickball is fun too. But it's getting boring after you played it a lot. And I like going to the park when the fountain is open. And I enjoy math. And I like to play with my friends. And I also like knitting with my mom. I liked it when Satsuki showed us slides about Australia. Arts in class was pretty fun. I like it when we did I can't read it, and when we did kangaroos. And I also like it when we watched the Olympics. So I thought that was a great response. another topic was my dream island. If I had a dream island, it would be, and so on. And the year they did these journals was the year that that incident happened that you may have heard me talk about, that we were walking to the library one day, 5 of the kids in that class and I were walking over, and 2 of them had come from other schools. And one of them said, I never learned anything at my other school. And this other girl said, well, I learned a lot there, but I didn't learn anything about myself. And I thought that was so beautiful, and I thought that was an example of something, a ways that the teacher was giving writing assignments to help the children learn about themselves. So we've given you maybe 15 or different examples of activities today to help children in personal development and cooperation and developing their spiritual sides. And I think we're done, just about.
I want to just add something about the stones. I have bigger stones, I didn't bring them all, but bigger stones on a little body really pushes them down. It makes them feel really connected. And so I realized I didn't have all my big heavy stones, but even my big heavy stone kind of seemed small on you guys' body. So just so you know that. Let's see, we'll put an extra special rock on that leg so that leg learns how to stay still, or I help him a little bit. But I tried to be quiet. I think a year or 2 ago I started to do an extension of our program in the afternoon as well. And sometimes I didn't quite know what to do with the energy in the afternoon with the kids, because for 13 or 12 years I did the mornings, so I had that pretty much down. But now an extension, what to do with them and how wasn't quite clear to me. And either it seemed like they were too tired, or I couldn't find. I felt like, okay, I try to calm their energy by doing intellectual things. Like I thought, well, maybe they have extra energy and I need to guide them into intellectual, just use that energy. And it didn't really work. And I thought, well, maybe they're just overwhelmed and they need, playtime. And that really, frankly, didn't work out that well either. And so then, I guess, all of a sudden I remembered something that I used to do, stations. It's kind of like Montessori, when you have to be in a station, you can use any station you want to, where there's not anybody there yet, and you cannot talk. And you get to stay there for 20 minutes, or like I do it 30 minutes, 35, 40 minutes even, because they say the first 20 minutes you just get into it, and you kind of come out on that stage, but then you go in and even deeper. So I just now say to my kids, so I said...
Give them an example of what a station would be
Yeah,
like.
so now when I have a station you can draw, a station if you need to eat, that's always a choice then. You have Legos, you have pictures, you can build blocks, you can make mosaics. I have like 12 different things what they possibly could do. And then I have beads too, the fusing beads, if you know what that is. They can make little frogs, they can do weaving, so anything they choose. The thing is though, we cannot talk and we cannot play with anybody. So this is just time for ourselves. And what I found, what it does, that it's amazing how quiet they are and how much they actually like it. Because, I don't know about you, but sometimes I just want to put my rock here. And I don't want Rose to put it over here. I just want it here without having to, fight for it, argue for it, or you just want it, you and nobody, really. You and with yourself. And really that is the best. I throw it in sometimes in the morning when I just think it's too much going on and they're all over the place. I say, okay guys, stations. And immediately it calms down. I do put music on and they get to choose, and I have to remind them, guys, keep the voices inside. There's some talking voices, so keep the voices inside, and if you have to whisper, you can come and ask me quietly. And it's amazing how long they actually can, but because I think they need it, like 6-7 hours there with their peers, they just need a break from that.
Anyone else willing to share what you wrote about?
We've been doing, we call them rocks, we've been stood still since I've been here. Years ago, and we've been doing that for a long time, but it was nice to actually get to experience it from the children's perspective, 'cause it's been a long while since I've done that. And during that time, it really kind of inspired me to make some changes in our scheduling, because it made me think about how it was great to have that moment, and then when you asked us to reflect, we usually do reflection journals, but it's at a different time of our day, and I was like, why not do it after meditation? Like, that would make the most sense. And so, like, being able to experience it as a child would inspired me on what changes I needed to make for our classroom. So I'm gonna try it out in practice. So.
I have a general comment. I always feel this at the end of the online class, and I feel it now probably even more because it's been live and in person. I mean, well, that's live, but in person with all the real bodies here. But I know this is a little general, but it just feels like I can just be my best self when you give all these really specific things and also general things and also ideas. Well, if this doesn't work, try this. But it's very, very palpable. Thank you.
Like Karen said, none of these ideas, very few of these ideas were original. But it's how to take it, find the deepest meaning in it, and share it, and bring out the best in each other and their kids. So thank you all for this opportunity.